A very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. I am Jamie and this is of course the chat up on Relax Radio. How is everybody doing? How is your Monday going so far? We've had pretty interesting conversation actually. We spoke about productivity. Mondays can be really hard to stay productive. It can be really hard to stay productive and it can be really hard for you to be productive on Mondays specifically, okay? But I gave you a few tips on what you can do in order to get as productive as possible, even on a Monday. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter where you are. I shared with you a few things that you can do in order to be as productive as possible. Now, with that being said, before we get on into some interesting conversation, this is definitely conversation that you absolutely must hear because this is with regards to which travel destinations are considered to be high risk. Obviously, the list keeps getting updated, and I want to give you the most updated list possible. I also do want to talk about the rules. A lot of people are starting to travel again. A lot of people are going into other countries for education, for business purposes, or to visit families. And it's not just for traveling. And I just want to talk to you about the rules when you go into these red, amber, or green list countries. Like we'll talk about that traffic light system as well, just a little bit. And this is definitely conversation that you need to hear. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. Before we get on into the conversation, though, hello out to everybody listening in. We do have quite a few of you that are tuning in right now. I want to know where you're from, okay? And since we're talking about COVID, go ahead and let me know. What's the situation like in your country where you're from, in the region where you're from? What's the COVID situation? Is it bad? Is it good? Go ahead and let me know by connecting with me on 07852 473 If you didn't catch the number, that's okay because the number is on the screen right now. All right, with that being said, let's get on into the conversation for today, and that's with regards to travel destinations. Which travel destinations are high risk and what are the rules that you need to follow if you are traveling? Okay, first and foremost, I feel like there are quite a lot of changes that are being made to this current traffic light system. Okay, so there's a green, amber, red list, and there's so many changes that are being made to this traffic light system. And of course, we at Relax Radio, we're here to keep you updated with everything that's going on, and that means also keeping you updated with all of these new rules and changes that are being made with regards to this whole pandemic. Okay. Now, with that being said, you do know that already India, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates actually did enter the red, or rather, these four countries moved from the red to amber list, which means you can now travel to India, Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. But just to give you a roundup of the countries that are currently in the red list, we have countries like Afghanistan, Argentina, Bangladesh, Botswana. We have Colombia, Congo, Costa Rica. Egypt is also on the list, and we have so many more countries, of which Maldives is included. We have Mozambique, Mongolia, Pakistan, and so many more countries as well. Now, with that being said, I also do want to talk to you about. Okay, so what exactly are the rules for traveling into a red list country? Now, with regards to the rules, basically government advisors state that you should not travel to a red list country or territory just for travel purposes or for holidays. If you have to travel there, you need to pay for a 10-day stay at a government managed quarantine hotel when you return back to the UK. Now, I do want to talk about that for a second as well because it's sparking a lot of controversy. These quarantine centers, especially when you go into a red list country, when you come back into the UK, you need to stay in a government managed quarantine hotel. And there is so many people that are speaking up and saying that these quarantine hotels are not up to standard. They are basically like prisons. Basically, the food is horrible, and the situation is horrible. And I do want to talk about that for a second as well, but that'll be a whole other conversation. Okay. But basically, the rule is that if a country is deemed to be a red list country, you shouldn't rather travel for holiday or just travel purposes. But if you do go for any other reasons, when you come back to the UK, you need to quarantine in a government managed hotel. Okay, so that's basically this needs to be booked before you arrive in England. And you also need to fill out things like passenger locator forms, and you actually could be fined. Okay, this is what's crazy, right? So if you don't follow this procedure of having your PCR tests done prior and after entering England, if you go to one of these red list countries, if you don't do all of these whole processes, that's the scary thing, okay? The reason I'm telling you of this is because I want you to go and tell other people as well. Because if you don't follow these procedures, you could be fined up to £10,000, and you could even be imprisoned for up to 10 years, or you could have to do both, okay? If you fail to provide accurate details about the countries that you have visited 10 days before you arrive in the UK, you could face all of these penalties. And we don't want anybody to face such penalties, okay? We don't want any of you to go through this. So which is why I want to keep you informed. You definitely don't want a 10,000 penalty or 10 years in prison. So that's why I just wanted to keep you informed of the rules with regards to traveling or whatnot. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. I'm actually going to head on off into a little break. When I come back, though, we do have a lot more interesting things to talk about. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax.
We've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? Because in a public company where the stock is traded openly on the stock exchange, the value of that stock is driven by supply and demand, it's driven by emotion, it's driven by news, it's driven by quite a lot of variables over and above the actual accounting or total net worth of that company. I mean, we've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? And the company may still have value, it may still be doing quite a good things.
A very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. I am Jaimmy and this is, of course, the Chat Wrap on Relax Radio. We've been having very diverse conversations so far. I've spoken to you earlier on. Actually, we were talking about productivity. We were talking about what you can do in order to be as productive as possible. And we were also talking about, with regards to, travel restrictions, we were talking about the traffic light system that is going on. And I also spoke to you about the rules that you need to follow, especially if you are traveling to a red list country. The fine, if you don't follow the procedures that are set out by the English government or the authorities, is that you could end up paying a fine up to like £10,000, or you could even go to prison for 10 years. Now, you don't want any of that happening to you, which is why I kept you updated with regards to the processes that you need to follow, the rules that you need to follow if you enter a red list country. And I also gave you an update about what countries are in the red list. Now, I was actually wondering, a few of you were talking to me and you were saying how there's a lot of confusion as to whether Spain is actually included in this red list, on the red list rather, okay? And the fact is, up to date, or as of yesterday, Spain is not on the red list, but there is a surge in COVID cases of returning Brits from Spain, and that can obviously lead to a change and a travel update. Okay, and a lot of holiday goers coming back from Spain are almost 2.5 times more likely to actually have COVID than an average person in the UK, according to new figures, which is crazy to me. So if you've been to Spain or if you're planning to go to Spain, just make sure that there could be a change that is done with regards to it not being on the red list, basically. And a large number of holiday goers returning from Spain are testing positive for COVID, and that's raising the concerns that UK's most popular foreign travel destination could actually be in danger of moving into the red list. So that is definitely something that you need to remember if you're planning your fall vacation or summer vacation, whatever it is. If you're planning that, just remember that Spain could be in the danger of moving back into the red list. Now, more than 1 in 35 travelers arriving in Britain from Spain were found to have the virus, according to new figures. And yeah, and that's just scary to me. And if you're planning to travel, just make sure that you remember all of this, okay? Now, COVID rates in Spain are actually lower than in the UK. However, the point is that about 2.9% of positivity rate of returning British holidaymakers is well above the average rate for UK residents, which, according to the latest ONS figures, is about 1.2%. And I know it's a lot of numbers, and I know this can sound a little boring, but I want you to be aware of all of this because I don't want your plans to be ruined. And just know that with COVID, everything's so unexpected. Today can be fine and tomorrow can be completely chaos. So whatever plans you're making, make sure that you remember that. Make sure that you remember that, with the pandemic, nothing is certain, nothing is for sure. So if you're making holiday plans, just remember that. I don't want you to be too upset. Obviously, I don't want your plans to be ruined because it's a lot of money, especially if you're going on holiday. It's a lot of money that you're putting down, and yeah, just I don't want you to be disappointed. So if you are planning to go on holiday, make sure that you consider all of these different things before you actually do that. And yeah, we do have a lot of interesting things to talk about because I genuinely have a lot of very diverse things to talk about today. I want to talk about Nicki Minaj and her husband. So they are being sued, which I know is not a big deal, but they're being sued because because of they're being sued by somebody that actually filed a sexual assault case for Nicki Minaj's husband, and it's a very interesting story that I want you to stick around. I want to talk about the Plymouth shooting, of course, and I want to talk about whether or not firearms should be legal, and that is definitely something I'm going to want your opinion on. So go ahead and call me up on 07852473473, or you could very simply connect with us on our social media, that is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. I think I said Facebook already, TikTok as well. We go as Relaks Radio. Go ahead and show us some love because we are there for you 24/7, 365. All right, with that being said, we are going to head on off into a little break. When I come back, though, we do have a lot more interesting things to talk about. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relaks Radio.